Like the Hunter Biden laptop story from 4 years ago, the ancient dinosaur legacy media is attempting to put the kibosh on a very big story. Yes, they're willing to report on The View and on ABC News that President Joe Biden has pardoned Hunter Biden, not for any particular activity, but rather for an entire decade of his life. But they're not willing to go deeper and tell you what's really going on. Will the new media win this time in a post-election world? We'll tell you right now. Hello, welcome one and all to the channel that heeds the call of telling the truth, breaking the news, giving you the scoops, keeping you ahead of the culture curve, explaining entertainment is our forte. And today we're taking a look at the dynamics between the old dinosaur legacy media and the new media in a post-election world. Will the narratives be formed as they have been in the past through the gatekeeping corporations who have decided that they want you to look in a very particular direction when it comes to Joe Biden and the pardoning of his son? But the new media is hardening up, and it's bringing the news in a way that the legacy news media just cannot keep up with. And that is, there's far, far more to this story. We'll explain, including bringing on Donald Trump's attorney, Ron Coleman, to explain what all this is about. Folks, click that like button and shout this out on your favorite social media platforms. And here we go. Whoopi Goldberg and the View host slam the GOP, that's the grand old party, that's the Republicans, pearl clutching over Hunter Biden's pardon. That's what presidents do. Folks, we're going to talk about why this matters to entertainment and to companies, but I want to show you what the View is up to, and then I'm going to explain why this is absolutely off the rails. It's not just politics. There is a concerted, in my estimation, and I'll show it to all of you, there is a concerted effort out of the news dinosaur legacy media to make sure you do not see what's really happening. We'll explain it. Let's watch the View first. Here we go.
I take issue with lying about it. I wanted to ask him here when he came on The View, but the thought was he said so many times he wasn't going to pardon him. That to me is lying to the public. I felt bad for Karine Jean-Pierre that she repeatedly had to say that he wasn't going to pardon him. This is why people don't trust Washington. That's why they don't trust politicians. And I know a lot of us like Joe Biden, but I find it disappointing and bad for our institutions.
All right, here's the article. Whoopi Goldberg and her lefty cohorts on The View went to the mat Monday in defense of President Biden's sweeping pardon of his son, Hunter. Folks, one of the things they're not wanting you to see is that this is a pardon unlike any pardon you've ever seen before, and we'll explain. Writing it off as just what presidents do and dismissing criticism of the controversial move as foolish and pearl-clutching. Goldberg, that's Whoopi, launched straight into her defense of Biden during the ABC TV show's Hot Topic segment by rattling off a list of people President-elect Donald Trump pardoned during his first term, including Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, and a cupcake bakery. Oh, wait, no, that's the place she tried to burn to the ground. That's what presidents do every time. They do it every time they pardon somebody. So I'm not sure why the pearl-clutching is happening now, except that's what folks want to do, but it seems kind of foolish, said Whoopi. There is the president who is just learning of the pardon he gave, and there's the lady of The View. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, let's go to Jack Tron Prime from X. And here's Ana Navarro Cardenas. And she's one of the ladies from The View. Ana Navarro is how she's usually referred to. And she said back in, back in June of this year, "Hey, Trump sycophants. If Biden controls the legal system, wouldn't he have protected his son? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Ooh." And of course now, U.S. President Joe Biden pardoned son, despite pledge not to. So she's on The View. But the thing to look to, folks, is none of the news media, including The View, and they're all owned by entertainment corporations, basically, none of them are talking about this. Adam Krigler says, why does the pardon date back to 2014? And then the goose chases the man and says, what's important about 2014? Okay, well, that's a great question. You see, the news media and The View, they want actually for you to be debating and raging at them for, whether or not it's right or wrong for the president to pardon his son. What they don't want you to pay attention to is that Joe Biden did something that is very, very atypical. Joe Biden did not pardon his son for purchasing a weapon while he was addicted to drugs and lying about it. Joe Biden, that's what they're talking about. What Joe Biden actually did was pardon his son for an entire decade for anything that ever happened during that decade. And to my knowledge, that has never been done before. It has never been that a president has said, for 10 years, whatever you did, even if you've never been charged for it, even if we've never discovered it, you're clear. That is what I think they don't want to have discussed. And that's what I'm paying very close attention to is when the ladies of The View, when the late night talk show hosts, when the talking heads of cable, when they come out there and they debate whether or not the president should be pardoning his son and whether or not he lied about it, what they're doing is they're playing hide the ball. This is a giant effort to distract you from the reality that no investigations can happen now, apparently. No criminal activities can be uncovered and prosecuted, apparently, for an entire 10 years. That's not a simple pardon. Yet everybody in the entertainment-controlled news organizations is discussing that and not the disgusting, unprecedented maneuver by the president to completely protect 10 years of potential criminal activity. Now, I don't know what he ever did.
Technically, it's 11 years, right?
An 11-year pardon, if it is, an 11-year pardon for anything and everything, even the things we don't know about, we've never seen it. So, panel, why do you think, well, I'll start with Culture. Culture, do you believe that the news and entertainment talking heads, do you think that they're just so simple that they've been fooled by this? And so they're just, or do you think that they understand what it is they're trying to hide?
I think it's nefarious. It may not be on the actual talking heads part, but it may be on their producers, because largely what these people talk about are talking points that they're given by their producers, and that comes, from other places sometimes as well. If you look at it, 2014 is the year this goes back through. That's one whole year. Well, so is the year of 2024. So that's 11 years of you can't touch me. And there's all kinds of things that fall within that 11 years. Now, I disagree with the assumption that you can't investigate, you can't vet stuff from back then and then go after it, because Hunter Biden's not alone. There's an entire group of humanity that participated in all of the events that happened. So, if there was money laundering that went to recipients, because of their position and their ability to influence things, influence peddling and whatnot, then I believe that, you don't maybe get him, but you get everybody that's attached to him. And it doesn't keep him from testifying either. They can have him in and, sit on him, and just ask him 1,000 questions. Now, if he commits perjury, that's a new crime. And I muted myself there. And if you
thought it was the government, we were worried.
No. But if that in of itself is a crime, and obviously if he's unwilling to testify, that's a whole that could be deemed as a crime as well. So we'll have to see. I have a feeling that I wouldn't stop investigating. In fact, I would use the new and improved FBI to go after all those old things that they clearly have evidence of that they didn't go after.
Well, so here's something to think about, and this is why it's in the purview of this channel. We cover entertainment. The question now becomes Culture, and we'll have Ron Coleman on later to talk about Fifth Amendment and issues of testimony and all of that. The question becomes, people are acting, and the news media, The View, ABC News, all of these entertainment-owned news organizations, they're acting as if this is the thing, and I'm not sure that it is. What do I mean by that? I mean, I'm not sure this is over. Like, there's nothing stopping Biden over the next 6 weeks from doing these unprecedented, chronologically linked pardons that we've never seen before for vast numbers of people. So you could see a situation where people who pushed certain medical procedures,
corruption, yeah,
right. But you could see people who tried to force.
Yeah, that's why I wish they wouldn't have telegraphed some of the people they wanted to go after, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think you're right.
Right.
I think there's a bunch of people who should be held to account for all the crap over the last 4 to 8 years that are not going to be able to now because of what's going on. You're 100% right, I think.
Right. And Tom, what he might do, because we've never seen this before, he might come out and say, for 11 or 15 or 20 years, whatever these people did, whether you were an entertainment CEO, whether you were a Hollywood celebrity who went to an island, whether you were involved in
You
white
can't be sued
parties,
for discrimination, for following DEI crap, all that stuff. Yeah.
right. Whatever the case might be, for 10, 15, 20 years, you're absolved of everything and you can never be touched. And that's what we're watching to see. Like, so that's why I'm paying attention to the entertainment companies and the news organizations that they're owned by, because I'm trying to see, like, are they trying to hide the ball right now and make us talk about this, which is like 1/10?
I think that's part of it, but I think we got to also look at their own personal egos, right? Because how many of these people, as just pointed out, have come out and said, "Oh, well, see, he's not pardoning his son," so they're covering their own butts now for part of it. That's part of it. Don't get that part out of focus here. But you're right. I agree with you. I think in the next month or so, until Trump takes over, we're going to get a bunch of strategic pardons,
giant, unprecedented pardons. And Tom, the thing about that too is that by pardoning his son first, and by having people like the ladies of The View and the late night, talk show hosts come out and say, they're all Disney owned, by having them come out and say, oh, well, he had to pardon his son. That's an emotional thing. It allows this precedent breaking action to be more palatable to large swaths of the public. So that then in 3 or 4 weeks, when it's like, oh, well, Fauci, you're now blanket pardoned for 15 years.
Right.
Then it's the precedent is already set. Jonas, I think we've got a video to play in just a moment.
And that's the sad part too, is I just wanted to say, like, because we know darn well if this was any one of Trump's kids with any number of these just accusations, let alone the proof we have on what Mr. Biden did, right? Like, they would be throwing a huge hissy fit right now. Trump would have pardoned him like this.
We saw this, Tom. I remember 4 years ago when he was leaving office, it was he's going to pardon his kids, he's going to pardon himself, despite the fact that none of them had been indicted on anything. He's going to give a blanket pardon so that they can't bring any charges against anybody, and it was the worst thing that anyone could have ever done as part of their narrative. And now all of a sudden, it's, well, what's the big deal?
And here's the thing too, Marvin. This is why the new media is so important, because we're the new media, right? You've got PBD, the new media. You've got Megyn Kelly. You've got the Young Turks. We could name like tons and tons of channels. Midnight's Edge, Valiant Renegade, Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers. We can keep going. We can keep going and going. Here's the deal. You will not hear this conversation on the dinosaur media. The dinosaur media is not saying, hey, wait a minute. Is this being done so that they can actually cover up this other thing? The new media is the only place you can hear it. And that's why this is an entertainment topic, because the gatekeepers are attempting to do what they've always done. In the post-election era, will it work? That's what we're watching. Jonas, let's play the clip.
So I've been waiting for just a minute to talk about this. So there's two things going on here. First of all, there's the pardon, which was going to happen, whether it was quiet or not. Biden has nothing left in the tank that he needs to spend any political capital on. So this is the last thing that he is going to do that is bold-faced a personal gain for him. Everything else could be some play for legacy. This is very much his own personal issue. There are people that are going out there talking about other presidents who have pardoned family members in the past, including Jared Kushner's father being pardoned by Trump. That's a little different because he was, I believe, working in more of an official capacity. Roger Clinton was famously pardoned by Bill Clinton, but they're trying to bring up this idea that this is something that presidents do all the time, and you only care when it's a Democrat.
No,
which is
my understanding, Jonas, is those were pardons for specific actions, right?
Right.
It's funny how it's white privilege until it actually is.
Right. So when we look at this, has been something that should have been dragging Biden down. If the media was doing their job the way that they do when it's someone like Donald Trump, this would be a much larger focus for the media. Instead, they take a nap whenever it's a Democrat in office. So the Burisma thing, well, let's just
hear
Joe Biden reacting on this subject.
And that is,
can you hear it?
Biden, your son, was getting paid a lot of money to serve on the board of a Ukrainian energy company facing serious corruption charges. You were the vice president running point on Ukraine. The average Joe hears that and says, that sounds fishy. What's your understanding of what your son was doing for an extraordinary amount of money?
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it. And there's nobody.
Hey, can you pause just a moment, Jonas?
Yeah.
When was this recorded?
Let's see. This was released 4 years ago. But Burisma.
Hold on a second. The level of degradation of Joe Biden from when this was recorded until now is incredible, and not in a good way. He's cogent in this. He could never respond that coherently today.
It's true.
Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of?
No, because I trust my son.
But that doesn't pass the smell test. Like when you're vice president, isn't there a higher standard? Don't you need to know what's happening with your family? Don't you need to put down some guardrails?
Unless there was something that was, there was something on its face that was wrong. There's nothing on its face that was wrong. So look, if you want to talk about problems, let's talk about Trump's family.
So and I'm not accusing Axios of anything here, but that is essentially him feeding him. Here is the hand wave. They're putting the lampshade on it, like in those Avengers films when Joss Whedon feeds a line to Hawkeye to say, "The city is flying. I'm here fighting robots with a bow and arrow." Like, haha, we're making the joke. This is the political person making the joke, giving them the excuse of what they need to be covering instead. They're trying to say, you don't need to worry about all the habits of this depraved person. You should be focusing on that Donald Trump over there. This is a framing issue more than anything else. I've got another clip, and forgive me if I'm going deep here, but this is Joe Biden talking about his own relations in the Ukraine.
Gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. Said, "No," I said, "I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion." They said, "You have no authority. You're not the president." The president said, I said, "Call him." I said, "I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion." I said, "You're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here." And I think it was 6 hours. I said, "I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money." Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was.
All right, let's hold there, Jonas. And Ron, I know
that is much more clear language than Donald Trump did when he was prosecuted for interfering in the Ukrainian foreign aid scandal.
Right.
Wait. What do they call that? A squid?
Quid pro quo.
Oh yeah, that's the term.
That's the thing. All right. So I want to get Ron's thoughts, and then, folks, we're just so blessed to have this next panelist to talk about this, and in particular, because I know he's listening, we're going to get into Fifth Amendment issues surrounding all of this. Ron, what are your thoughts? Do you think that the media is colluding right now to hide the ball, to keep everybody looking in a different direction than what's really happening?
Should probably let him on the panel before we. Oh, sorry, that Ron.
The other Ron. There's two Rons. Well, I'll let the lawyer speak in a second, but just as a viewer, I'm going to say absolutely, because I read that entire pardon that was given, and I've never seen anything like it in my life. That covers anything that they would have found evidentially, I believe, on the laptop, and the attorney Coleman can elaborate. The attorney can elaborate on that, but I do believe that they are definitely punting. Like it's a distraction. It's like the magician, the illusionist. I want you to look over here so you don't see what's going on over here, and here's the thing. I'm also looking at the potential precedent that this sets up for all of the Republicans that are about to be in power as of the 20th of January. So we'll see what happens on that end as well.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Ron Coleman, it is such an honor to have you here to talk about this topic. You are, I suppose, one of the absolute best individuals on planet Earth to talk about it.
Not really. There are people who study these. This is a law school topic because litigation over pardons comes up very, very rarely, if at all, came up in the Nixon context. And I might be the only person on this call who.
Okay, how about this? Wait a minute, Ron. You're the best in Alaska. Can we say that?
Well, I'm the best among your friends. I'll take that.
By the way, I did not know that you're a big game hunter, but I hear you're looking for polar bear and election cheaters. So hopefully that'll turn out well for you.
I hope I don't find any election cheaters, but I wouldn't mind finding another 601 ballots to revoke to revoke ranked choice voting here in Alaska. I think Ron, you made a very good point. The Republicans don't. There's very little incentive here for Republicans to attack this pardon, folks. This guy's just a crackhead. It really, like, the idea of spending any capital on trying to pull back the pardon over this guy who has spent his entire life both as a victim of Joe Biden, sort of in this psychological, father-son way, which, I get. I mean, Mike Cernovich has been making a point very, very strongly on X the last couple of days. Hey, we're not talking about a kid. He's not 25. He's not 20. He's a 54-year-old. If you consider all things over the history of our country, the pardon power doesn't seem to have been a gigantic threat to liberty.
So, Ron, let me ask you two. Let me come at it from two, I hope, avant-garde angles, and we'll see what you come up with here. So, my first question
for newer audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
modern audiences.
Question number one is so he's got a pardon that now applies chronologically. So it's not action-based, it's decade-based. Okay. So if he is called to testify or to give some sort of a deposition test, whatever he's called upon to do for investigatory reasons, whether it's Congress or legal, can he still invoke the Fifth Amendment? Can he plead the Fifth, or because of an act of mercy, is that revoked now because he has no danger of impugning himself?
He can invoke it, but that invocation will not be upheld on appeal. So the question that people have asked several chess plays down the board is, okay, so you can subpoena him, and now that the Republicans are the majority House, they can actually, for a change, enforce subpoenas against Democrats. He's not going to answer. He has no incentive to answer, so he'll just refuse. He'll either refuse to show up for the subpoena, in which case he could be imprisoned, but that doesn't really get us anything. But what it does do is, from a litigation point of view, it prevents him from offering any testimony in the future that could see. There's a lot of what people I think have failed to appreciate is that there's a lot of sworn testimony out there already, and a lot more that's available about the crimes that really matter. Not so much. I mean, I don't want to say that the sexual crimes and the social crimes that Hunter Biden has been implicated in based on his laptop don't matter, but for purposes of policy, we do have a problem with the way he's been protected by law enforcement, and there's a very, very strong argument that the most important investigation to come out of this will be the process of determining the extent to which Hunter Biden has been protected by law enforcement and the intelligence community over the last decade. But in terms of the policy stuff and the Burisma and Ukraine and the influence peddling, if you can prevent someone from testifying by interviewing him on the record and under oath, and he refuses to answer, or he gives non-useful answers, that prevents him from contradicting either existing or future testimony that might be given about the same subjects. It doesn't prevent him in a physical sense, but it makes any future testimony that he might have extremely unuseful, because you can impeach him with his lack of recollection when and if he would try to come to the aid of any of his past or present Confederates, including his pop, who no one's going to go after. This is not about going after Joe Biden.
So let me ask you the second part of that, Ron. And that's a phenomenal answer, and I really appreciate you educating me there. Second part is, we'll see how you do on this one. So Biden comes out with the most sympathetic, chronologically based pardon that you could imagine, because it's his son. And the mainstream media, the dinosaur legacy media, they do what they've always done. And the new media is now doing what we're doing. So at least there's a counterpoint. My question from the new media that's willing to ask this question, as opposed to the corporate organizations that want their narratives out there, Ron, is this, do you think, the first step in a number of much more, as you said, policy important, chronologically based pardons that could be coming down the pipeline, where we see, for example, a Fauci or individuals who are connected with some of these huge celebrity corruption situations, or maybe Mayorkas? Like, we could go through the list of people who would benefit greatly from a chronological pardon where it's not for an action, but it's from 2014 to 2024, carte blanche. You can't be touched because you're pardoned for everything you ever did, discovered or undiscovered. Do you think that's where we're headed, or do you think this is a one-off?
I think this is a one-off, but I think the answer, my lawyerly answer, it depends. I do think that somewhere between the two extremes, there will be more pardons. I don't think there will be pardons this broad, because you can excuse a guy. I may or may not be able to, but there is an argument to excuse a guy for pardoning his son who has a drug problem, who is still his son, for every little thing ever over a period of time. And there are holes in that, and the sort of blank check is problematic, and it may or may not be litigated, but it's a son. To do it for other actors, I think that's a bridge that they don't want to cross.
Here's soft pushback, Ron.
Yeah.
I agree with you if he had pardoned his son in this way on the last day. Pardoning his son now is strange to me.
It was when Jill had the time to do her puppeteering.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yes, no, that's an important question that a lot of people are asking. Part of the answer might be to see how this is going down, how this is accepted. But I want to remind everyone of course, everyone follows me, right? So everyone remembers what I tweeted 3 days ago.
You're the
Alaska
constitutional attorney in Alaska.
I tweeted, this Hunter Biden pardon stuff couldn't have been better scripted for the Republicans. Because, like I said, he doesn't matter. He's a piece of crap. Okay. What it did was it cut the legs off so many media enablers and cultural enablers who swore that this was never going to happen. This is the difference between Joe Biden and that scumbag Donald Trump, and not only them and their positions and their predictions, but also the overwhelming, not the overwhelming, but there's no moral high ground anymore.
So
if I have done it, in fact, not the day before the inauguration when no one's really paying attention, and there's all this, there's so many other issues, to give us a whole month to chew on this and to demonstrate the criminality of the Bidens. If he does that again, I say, bring it on. I don't care if Fauci, I'm not interested in personal revenge. Whether or not Fauci goes to, Fauci is a con man, a person who has done terrible harm to our country. He may indeed have blood on his hands, but he's another man in his 80s. Putting him in prison doesn't get me anything. But if Biden pardons him, much less Mayorkas, oh my gosh. I mean, that opens up, that's an admission of criminality.
Right.
That's an
So,
admission of criminality, no matter how you.
if I
And
can,
I gotta
look
say,
at
if
this
somebody,
fact-
No, it's not
no,
lost.
I think
But
publicly
it's
some of these
important.
people should be held accountable, like
Yeah, no, there is
Fauci for one.
There is an accountability issue, but given that we have this quirk in the Constitution that like historically at the time, all sovereigns, the sovereign had this power to grant grace and forgive a person for his crimes. Like we can handle that, because meanwhile his reputation, like again, by being pardoned, his reputation is now sullied. And I mean, we're talking about imperfect worlds here. Keep in mind, there's a lot of political difficulty with actually prosecuting Fauci. He has a million different forms of immunity. He has I don't really think there was going to be a successful prosecution of Anthony Fauci, but there's a lot that can come out and a lot that we can learn by proper investigations, by real law enforcement or real oversight, which has been so lacking over the last 4+ years, that I'm willing to pay that price if I think that's tolerable. I'm not losing any sleep over Fauci not being prosecuted, because I don't really think he was going to be prosecuted.
Well, the difference between Hunter Biden and Anthony Fauci is that Anthony Fauci had actual power. With Hunter Biden, he was given some sweetheart deals that he should never have gotten. Obviously, not capable of performing the duties that he was assigned here for millions of dollars. Now, the thing that I think you're pointing out here is that there can be political consequences for the other side. There can be unintended consequences for prosecuting people that are on the political opposite side of you. We're looking at the fact that Donald Trump just had a landslide victory here, probably because of all of the lawfare that was engaged against him, justified or not, that is used as a political cudgel by the other side. And so going after the son of your political opponent gains you nothing except whatever showmanship you would get for that. And then it actually makes you, in the case of someone like Donald Trump, it actually makes you look like a fascist.
But the argument...
So the gain is, oh, we got that. We locked up the guy. And when you said he's just a crackhead, I know you're rhetorically saying he's just a crackhead. They're locking up someone who has no political power going after this moment. There is nothing he can do, correct or false. He was probably going to get out of whatever charges were being brought against him. He belongs in jail for the things that he allegedly did. No one is debating that. But we need to move on to people who have committed crimes that have changed American freedoms. Hunter Biden is not affecting anyone's American freedoms.
New York is a much more interesting case, because there's a guy that literally lied to Congress every time he opened his mouth.
But they're a party to it, okay? Because you facilitated laundering money to your dad. He should answer questions about that, because Biden is a criminal.
He should.
If Fauci should be held accountable for colluding potentially with other entities outside the United States if anybody can find any medical stuff that was going on there that is highly suspected. The level of corruption and cooperation between all of these various entities to undermine the sovereignty of the United States and a sitting president should be not only investigated but prosecuted in the most extreme terms. Those are the things I want the people to be held accountable for.
Coach, I'll just point out to you, there's a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways the government can screw people's lives up, and really make them regret, getting their hand caught in the cookie jar, short of putting them in prison, short of prosecuting them criminally, and also that are easier.
Well, you could debank them.
For example,
that's been happening to conservatives for years now.
And folks, we have come to the end yet again. Another video of excellence in the can. What a joy it has been to share time with you. We hope you enjoyed it as well. If so, consider clicking that like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. And as always, drop a comment down below. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. Join a community dialogue today, just on down below. Folks, we are going to say farewell for now, but we will see you back for is more, and that's how many videos we put out every single day here on the Pro Channel. Hope you enjoy them all. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.